content. So today I'll be talking about the posterior abdominal muscles, and they're basically made up of four muscles, and namely, so what I did here is just showed only the posterior abdominal wall, which is close to the vertebrae. Okay, so just the muscles that we can discuss today: Psoas Minor, Psoas Major, Iliacus, and Quadratus Lumborum. Okay, so I'll just go by each one individually. So I'll just isolate this, and you can see that the Psoas Minor, you can see that it just has a small diameter, and so it's called minor. The origin is from T12-L1 vertebrae and the intervertebral disc between them. So it's just at the end of the thoracic and the start of the lumbar. That's where it starts. And then it inserts at the iliopectineal arch here, iliopectineal arch, okay? And the action is flexion and lateral flexion of the lumbar vertebral column, and it assists in upward rotation of the pelvis. Nerve supply is from branches of the ventral primary rami of the spinal nerve L1. Okay, so this is the Psoas Minor. Then the Psoas Major. If I isolate this, you can see that is way bigger, and it inserts on just the structure of the femur. It originates from the antesurface and lower borders of the transverse processes of the vertebrae T12 to L5. So just concentrate that it comes out of the transverse processes of T12 to L5 and also the anterior surfaces. The insertion is on the lesser trochanter of the femur, as you can see right here. Okay. And the action, it causes flexion of the hip joint, external rotation, and bends the lumbar vertebral column. Okay. The nerve supply, branches of the ventral rami of the spinal nerves L1 to L3. Okay, that's Psoas Major. Psoas Minor, Psoas Major. Iliacus, from its name, it's very closely related with the ilium of the pelvis. And so it covers the major part of the iliac fossa and the crest and the ala of the sacrum. It inserts onto the lesser trochanter of the femur. Okay. And the action is actually the flexion and external rotation of the hip joint, ipsilateral bending of the trunk, and raises the trunk from the supino position. Nerve supply is from the femoral nerve from L2 to L4. Okay, that's the iliacus. And finally, we have Quadratus Lumborum, and we can see where it lies. So it originates here from the posterior part of the iliac crest and the iliolumbar ligament right there, and inserts onto the 12th rib and the transverse processes of the vertebrae L1 to L5 here. L1 to L5. Action bends the trunk ipsilaterally, fixes the 12th rib, and aids in expiration. So that's when we were talking about breathing out. Nerve supply, 12th intercostal nerve, L1 nerve, L2 nerve, L3 nerve, and L4 nerve. So this is the Quadratus Lumborum. So these are the muscles of the posterior abdominal wall. In some books, you can also see that the diaphragm is part of them because it makes part of the posterior abdominal wall. I wanted to just hop on here to just give you these summaries of what we have talked about. And they're very detailed, these summaries, but I think they're very useful. This is here, we're first talking about the Psoas Major, remember? The one that starts on the transverse process in the anterior bodies of T12 to, I think, L5, and inserts onto the lesser trochanter, okay? And so it also gives you insertions, nerve supply actions. You can also, if you want to dive deeper on the relations that surround this muscle and how and where it's situated, then it talks about psoas fascia if you want to read more. The psoas minor that we talked about, the small diameter muscle, origin, insertion, nerve supply, and action. Then you have the iliacus. It's not mentioned here. It's mentioned in other parts of the book, but I think what I talked about was enough in the anatomy animation app. And then you have the Quadratus Lumborum, also origin, insertion, nerve supply, action. If you want to read about the relations, you can go ahead. But this is our video for today. I hope this worked well for you. And I'll see you guys in the next one.